bar graphs. You've probably already done them. You are probably an expert at making bar graphs. Today we're going to review how we're going to use bar graphs as a part of our statistics lessons. So let's jump right into our teach point. And our teach point is that today and every day, I want you to remember that I can make histograms. Don't let that big word fool you. You've been making histograms for a long time. All that means is bar graphs. And that's one of many choices you have as a way to display or show the meaning of data. All right, let's go. Going back to our first example, we asked our friends how many of their classes are on Google Classroom. Let's get our number tiles out again and let's put them in order again. So we're going to turn these number tiles into a bar graph today. I'm going to put them over to the side. So I'm going to start, as always, by creating my graph where it's going to go. So I'm always going to leave room below and to the left side so I can label my graph. And I'm going to start by labeling the x-axis and the y-axis. Remember, y to the sky. And I always want to put a title on my graph. And my title should not be bar graph or histogram. It should be something that connotates or shows the meaning. So I'm going to say that this is going to be called Google Classroom Histograph. And on the bottom, we're going to put number of classes on Google Classroom. And on the y-axis, we're going to label this number of students. Almost always, graphs should start at 0, which means down here at the origin or the corner of the graph, that should be 0. There's very rare exceptions, but a lot of times when you look at graphs that don't start at 0, they are misleading, so always check that. Now let's mark off how many different bars I need. I'm going to need one for 1, 2, 4, and 6, but just like a number line, I can't leave any numbers in between. So I'm going to say if that's 0, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then when I'm looking at the scale for my y-axis, all of my numbers of students, the biggest number of students I have in one group is 2. So I'm going to put the 2 here at the top and the 1 halfway in between. Now let's get started on drawing our histogram or our bar graph. When I look at having one class on Google Classroom, there's only one student that has one class in Google Classroom. So I'm going to make a bar that goes up to the 1. Now I like to color code my histograms because I think it makes them easier for people to look at. I suggest you do the same. When I look at students who have 2 classes on Google Classroom, I had 2 of those tiles. So on this one, I'm going to make that go up to the 2. I did not have any students that had 3 classes on Google Classroom. I had 1 student that has 4 classes on Google Classroom, and I had 1 student that has 6 classes on Google Classroom. So there you go. I have created my very first bar graph or histogram. Some really important things that I did were make sure to label my X and Y axis, to put a title that showed both what type of graph it is, but also the topic, to make sure that I labeled my origin, my x-axis values, and my y-axis values, and then make sure that I put a label showing what those values represented on the x-axis and on the y-axis. Let's try another example. So for our second example, we're going to use these same tiles when we asked our friends, how many pets have you had in your lifetime? So I'm going to put the numbers over here, and what I want you to do this time is I want you to pause the video and I want you to try to make your own histogram or bar graph on your own. Then when you're done, you can unpause the video and check in and see how you did with my answer key. So there's all of our numbers nice and lined up here. I want you to go ahead and draw out and make your own histogram or bar graph. Pause the video and then come back in a minute to check your work. And freeze. Osseo students, welcome back. Let's check our work. Again, I'm going to make some lines to represent the x and y axis. I'm going to label the x and y axis. I remember that y is to the sky. I'm going to put a title, and this is a histogram of the number of pets in a lifetime. So this is going to be the number of pets for the x-axis, and the y-axis is going to be the number of students. So last time, on our last slide, we made a space on the x-axis for every single value, 0 through 6. If you did that for your histogram, that's great. I'm going to show you a different way of creating the histogram. It doesn't mean that yours is wrong. I didn't ask you to do this. It just means that there's two different ways to solve this problem, so I want to show you a new way. So what I'm going to do is actually group these numbers. So I'm going to think about them as, let's pretend that my histogram is going to go from my origin of 0 to, let's say, this is 20. The middle would be 10, and then again we had 5 and 15. And instead of thinking about this as each individual number, I want you to think about these in groups. How many numbers are between 0 and 5? So we have 0, 1, 2, 2, 4, and 5. So that means between 0 and 5, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different numbers. That's a big group. So that means that over here on my y-axis, it has to go up to at least 6, because that is going to be my biggest group. So now instead of saying that this is 0 or 2 or 5, we're going to say how many people had a number of pets that's between 0 and 5, and we know the answer is 6. So we're going to come in here and draw our bar going up to 6. And then we're going to label this as 0 to 5 pets. Now let's look at the next group. How many pets were between 6 and 10? We only had one person that had between 6 and 10 pets. So between 6 and pets, we had one person. And this again represents 6 to 10 pets. Between 10 and 15 pets, we actually had no people at all. And then our last category, between 15 and 20 pets, again, we had one person that had 15 to 20 pets in their lifetime. So there you can see there's two different ways of making histograms. Today what I want you to do is, just like yesterday you wrote a data set for creating our line plots, today I want you to write a data set in the comments that other people can make into a histogram. So for example, I could say, how many chocolate frogs do you eat a month? And then I could give you the numbers 1, 3, 7, 7, and 12, and that's how many chocolate frogs 5 different people would eat in a month. Then you're going to find a problem somebody else has written and make your own histogram or bar graph, take a picture of it, and post it in the comments as a reply to their question. Thank you so much for joining us. See you later.